Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 28th of April, 2014, and this is episode 76, Lakeside. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. My week was pretty uneventful. There was a lot of laying in bed because I just felt like it, which was accompanied with some knitting, but a lot of movies with the kids in bed. So nothing much to report there. Knit Buffalo, the Indiegogo campaign is still going on for that. Jenna of e076 Knit is trying to start up, well, she's going to start up a yarn truck in New York, and her Indiegogo campaign is on for another week, I believe. I think it's 7 days today. The charity knit along is still going on, and it's any Ravelry sanctioned craft that you can use or that you will be giving to charity, or any project made out of a yarn or fiber, that was dyed for a specific charity. So this week I made a hat, and it looks very much like Mara's hat, except it is much smaller. The tassels are smaller in size. Can you see? Oh yeah, you can see the striping much better this way with these colors. I switched the main color and contrast color for this hat. So this is the circus hat by Crazy Socks Designs. I used Lion brand Wool Ease, the worsted weight in Denim Twist, which is the more gray blue, and Blueberry Twist for the brighter blue. And I will be donating this at the Zombie Knitpocalypse with Java Jenny's hat drive. That knit along runs through June 15th, and there will be at least one prize, which will be the winner's choice of a pattern up to $7, or I can make you something from my stash, which is this way, over here. Most of those yarns are up for grabs. There are a few that are reserved for something, but most of my stash is up in the air for what it will be used for. Finished objects that are not charity related. I only have one, but I'm pretty excited about it. These are the Lakeside socks by Julia Viconson, and this is where I was last week. It's a top-down sock. So I finished the leg and the foot. Here is the beautiful design on the sock. It has a faux cable. So there's no cabling here. It's all yarn overs and knit two togethers and slip knits. It's a very simple pattern, 4-round repeat. So simple that it kind of drove me a little crazy because I was like, oh, I just want something to happen in this sock. But it's beautiful. The results are gorgeous. And they fit me, so they should fit my friend Mary Lee because we have the same size feet. I'm really pleased with how they turned out. They've been on the needles for a very long time. I looked through my show notes before I started, and their first appearance was on May 13th, 2013. So I worked on them for a little while. I got a few pattern repeats in, maybe 4 inches worked. I tried them on and I was like, oh, those are way too big. So they sat aside, and in November I frogged them. And I think I recast on in November or December, and they're finally finished now. If I decide that I'm going to do gray knee-highs in a really simple pattern again, please remind me that it is a bad idea, that I will not love working on them. I love the finished project, and I only put good things into the project because the socks are for my best friend. But that meant I couldn't work on them a lot because I could only handle so much simple but intricate. Like, I couldn't read and work on them at the same time because there were so many stitches to so many things happening per round, every round, that I couldn't read and do it at the same time. But they're done. They're gorgeous. I am going to block them because I've not been in the habit of blocking things, but I think that the lace socks, when I give them to her, it'll just be nicer if they're blocked. Works in progress. First up, something you've already seen. Well, how about first up, I'm working on the design socks and I finally had my breakthrough moment. So I think I'm going to have the first one done next week, which is exciting. I will be looking for test knitters. It is written for top down, but I might do the second sock toe up so that I will have both cuff down and toe up to do because it's one of those patterns that'll work either way. Okay, on to something I will show you. I am working on this fiber. It's from Tailored Fibers. It's 4 ounces and I split it to do a fractal. This is the last of what I have to spin. If I spin a lot today and tomorrow, I should be able to have the single finished. I probably wouldn't even have to spin a super ton to get that done today and tomorrow, and then finish plying on the 30th because that's my goal, is to have this done by the end of the month. I think it's completely doable. So this is, did I say I was fractally spinning this? I am. This is the long color sections. Oh, it's hiding. This is the second half of the short color sections. And I started plying the first parts of the long and short color sections. So this is going to be a fingering weight 2-ply. And let's catch it so you can see it. That's what it's looking like. The fun thing about fractals is when you spin it, there are places where the colors meet up and places where the colors, like this green, for instance, right now, this green is the same on both singles. But the short color repeat section of fiber, that single, will quickly change to a new color. So it keeps it really fun and really interesting with the blips of color, but it also has the long color runs on one single. And the other 2 works in progress you haven't seen at all. First one is going to be Cheese Great Owl. Obviously not made in Great Owl size. That is super washing out, but I think you can kind of see it. The lighting is super fun because it is a stormy day. Right now it's not storming. Right now it is, it's very cloudy and overcast, which means I get fun light reflections in my room. Anyway, this is going to be G's Great Owl, but worked with 1 strand of worsted weight instead of 3, and I used a size F hook, which is 3.75 millimeters. It is damp, which is why it's not finished and stuffed, because I dyed the yarn for this. I made it first and then I dyed the yarn after I made it because I just needed something to work on. I was in a VKN and I had finished the gray socks and I had started the socks I'm going to show you in a minute, but I just couldn't work on them in the VKN, and I didn't want to work on my design socks because they're still kind of, at the point I was at on them, I couldn't focus on what people were saying and on the socks. So I started this because I didn't really have to pay attention. I started it in, there, oh yeah, you can see that that's pink. So I started it in this cone of peaches and cream dishcloth cotton. It's for a baby. It's for a baby girl. And while I don't think that this is inappropriate for a baby girl, it does have the blue and the green and the yellow, so some people are really, really into gender-specific things, and I don't know if my cousin is or not, but I decided I would play it safe. So I dyed this yarn using 1 pack of pink lemonade Kool-Aid, and it's this lovely pink color. I'm sure the color will show up better on my project page, which should be up by the time this is uploaded, because I'm hoping this is dry by then. Well, it will be dry by then. Being silly. And I will show you next week when it's completed and has eyes and isn't just kind of a blob. That pattern is designed by me. It's called She's Great Owl, and those are all the specs. My last project I'm really pleased with. I decided for Christmas that I was going to make my boyfriend a pair of socks that is from the Subversive Socks book, which I won from the Dramatic Knits podcast. It is a book put out by Cooperative Press, and the socks that I decided to make him are the stinky socks. So the front of the sock has these. I'm going to close the window. This is ridiculous. You can't see, I can't see. That's better, kind of, right? I don't know. Now my face looks a funny color, but here is the owl. And yeah, here's the owl and the cone, so you can see that it's dyed a little bit. And hopefully you'll be able to see the sock better now. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, so the top of the sock has these like scent lines, but they could be anything. And then the bottom of the sock says stinky. Isn't that great? I'm super excited to give those to him. And of course it'll all be in love, but his feet get kind of stinky sometimes. It's just the way it is. But I'm pleased with this because I started these socks. I may have cast on Monday night, but really I started them on Tuesday, and I have 1 sock completed in less than a week for color work, which, if you know my track record for color work, it's not so great. I started the Nightingale socks last year, April or May or March. Can't remember. Started the Nightingale socks, and they've seen very little progress. I plan to get back to them probably after the zombie knit apocalypse. But I have a colorwork sock, and it looks pretty nice, in my opinion. I think it looks pretty nice. So that's 1, and I started them 2 at a time, which was fine until I got to the gusset, and there were just way too many stitches for me to try to fiddle with and do the color work. So I moved the second one off onto a pair of needles that I had just sitting around because I finished the gray socks. So I'll be starting the second sock today, probably, working on it. This foot, I started the letters, I started the gusset yesterday at knitting. I definitely started, I started the gusset yesterday and got down to N and then finished the rest of the foot this morning. So hopefully this sock will fly as well, because it was also one of those things that I had on my list to get finished by the end of the month. So that's really exciting. I might finish almost everything I had on my to finish list this month, save the design socks. But what can you do when you have a block in a design? You just kind of have to live with it. So yeah, these should be done next week. They will be done next week unless something disastrous happens. Hopefully no disasters happen. I'm pretty excited about these socks. I'm pretty excited to have a successful pair of colorwork socks. Yay! And they'll be blocked so you can actually see, because my floats aren't horrible and they're not too tight. I tried on the socks and they're loose all the way, which is good because my boyfriend's feet are bigger than mine. And they're much longer than my feet too. That is a huge, huge foot. I am using Lion Brand Sock Ease in the colorway Rock Candy for the main color, and Premier Serenity Sock in the colorway Navy for the contrast color. I'm using the leftovers from the Lakeside socks for these because I had 3 skeins of yarn, 50 gram skeins for these socks, and I had to break into the 3rd ball for the toes. I got to the toes for each sock and then had to use the 3rd skein. So I had 50 grams, and that's perfect for contrast color. This is the leftover ball from the first sock, and this is for the 2nd sock. So I only have that much knitting to go. It's not a ton for these socks. Also, just gonna throw it out there, this sock does have, okay, so you can see on the bottom of the foot, there's color work every round. On the top of the foot, there are rest rounds in between. And I played a lot with what to do with the rounds in between. They're for my boyfriend. He's not going to care. He's going to wear them and he'll be like, oh, these are awesome, and show them off, and he won't care. So up here, I tried intarsia in the round just because. I was like, well, maybe that will be easier. And that worked kind of okay. And then for the rest of them, intarsia in the round is fine, except it meant that I had to do this color work on the bottom while it's stranded, and I had to purl it, and I just didn't love it. So then for the other sections, I just played around with how to strand across a bunch of stitches. I think it looks fine. It definitely looks fine when it's on my foot and stretched out. It doesn't have this puckering going on. So hopefully it'll block out so that it looks nice when I give these to Steve for Christmas. And yes, this is the first Christmas present that I'm working on because I have a long list of people to make for and a lot of pairs of socks to make for Christmas. So I'm going to get these done now, because before I forget, I'm wearing Steel City, which I finished last week, and it is in Grinning Gargoyle Seda Sock, the colorway Storm. Sock yarn blanket, where are you? On the floor. I did 8 squares on my sock yarn blanket this week, and it is all yarn from the ZK. So I have these 2 here. Anything with a stitch marker was completed this week. And you may be thinking, that's not the right amount of squares for how many projects you finished. You would be correct. I'm one behind, but I decided that I would rather try to get the projects that I wanted to finish for the month completed rather than put in the extra time on the squares. So maybe I will make them up this week, maybe not, we'll see. I may just jump into my projects that I want to finish by the end of next month. But still, 8 is better. 8 is one more than the 7 that is my requirement per week. And these yarns are just gorgeous. I still have a few more weeks worth of ZK yarn going into this blanket, so that's good. And then I'll have to figure out what I'm going to use next. I also did 8 hexapuffs, and all of them are using yarn from Haley. What really happened is I did the celebratory celebratory squares, but I didn't do a hexapuff or a square yesterday. Sundays are kind of just my off day because I have knitting group, so I usually spend the entire day working on just one main project and then a couple secondary projects, and I usually don't work on my modular projects on Sundays unless I don't have a lot to do. Anyway, so these are my celebratory hexapuffs. This one is reverse stockinette, and I did that the cheater way of knitting it in stockinette and then turning it inside out before I closed it up because, oh, that would be a lot of purling. And this one is 2 yarns striped, but not every other row because one of them had less yardage to it. So you can see this thicker pink stripe and this thicker white and pink stripe where I did a couple rounds instead of just one in between. And then the rest are solid Haley yarns. I'm really off. I don't know why I can't tell where my camera is today, but I just can't. So those 4, and then these 2. And speaking of my hexapuffs, the pattern is the Beekeeper's Quilt. And I told you that I was going to make hexapods, which I do every week, usually while I'm editing. I make 3 of these, which means 9 hexapods get put together total. So it's just 3 connected. And I told you that I was going to do that until I filled this bag. Well, this bag is full. It will definitely be full after today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting my blanket together, like together. So today I'm going to put 2 of these together to make a pot of 6, and then from now on every week I'm going to put together pods still every week, but I'm also going to add 1 pod to the overall blanket, which I probably won't show you every week, but maybe once a month I'll show you how the blanket is progressing because I want it to be a queen size blanket, just like my mitered square blanket is going to be. So how exciting is that? I have 563 mitered squares and 119 hexapuffs. That's a lot. I'm kind of impressed with the numbers considering the hexapuff project is pretty new and my mitered square blanket has been on the needles forever, and for a little while there I just thought it would never get finished. But it's getting there. It's getting super close. New things. On Friday, I went to my mailbox and I was expecting a package because I knew it was coming, but I had 2 packages. The first one was from my sister, and she sent me a wrap dress, which I tried on, and it's pretty cool. She sent me some mittens and a shawl that I had left when we went to Michigan in February for my grandpa's, after my grandpa died. And it has a letter, which I haven't read it yet, Amanda, but I'm writing you back tonight. It's happening. I know I've had it since Friday. Worst sister ever. But I'm going to read it. And she also sent me this chapstick. I mentioned that I am a chapstick junkie, especially flavored, good smelling kinds. I don't lick my lips a lot once they're on there, but I like the smell, and I drink a lot of water. So of course my chapstick gets, in my mouth as I'm drinking the water. And it's nice to have a nice flavor coming in instead of an icky, waxy flavor. Does that make sense? This is awesome. I've never seen this kind of chapstick, probably because I don't buy a lot of chapstick. I try really hard to curb my spending habits. But this is Mix Sticks, and the way it works is this end is caramel and this end is green apple. So when you put them on together, you get caramel apple. It's awesome. It's amazing. I wonder if they have any more flavor combinations. I might have to look next time we go grocery shopping. The second package, so that package, the one from my sister, that was the surprise package. The second package was from Josh, sort of a knitter, and it did not come in this box. This is the box that my sister's stuff came in. But yesterday, Mara was in my room. Mara is my daughter. She was in my room, and my son had just set a glass of water on my desk for me. Mara knocked it over into the box of tea. So Josh sent me this lovely box of tea. There are a bajillion flavors. I don't know. At least 20. Some of them I've tried before because he sent me that box for Christmas that had a whole bunch of tea in them, including Molly Hooper. I'm super excited about this. I'm pretty sure these are all from Adagio Tea. But he sent me Molly Hooper, which was my favorite, and he didn't like it all, so he even sent me the tin. Yay! And most of them have one serving, but Molly has more than one. And then he sent me these bigger bags that have a few servings. It's from Adagio Teas. All sorts of flavors, which is exciting because I had run out of the tea from him. There was a surprise in the box too. I knew tea was coming, so I was really excited about that. And then I opened it, and Gabriel was there when I was opening the packages because I got 2 packages. Clearly there was going to be cool stuff coming. So he stuck his hand in and he was like, "Look, Mom, yarn!" And I was like, yarn! So this is from Diabolical, and it's 100% superwash merino. It is the alter ego base in the colorway Kara, K-A-R-A. Or Kara base in the alter ego colorway. I don't know. I have been lusting after Diabolical yarn, but I haven't really looked into it because then I'd be like, oh, but I'm not going to order any right now, so that's sad. But look at this color. It's so beautiful. And I don't know what it's going to grow up to be, but it smells like tea right now, so I keep sniffing it. It's so beautiful. And I don't know what it's going to grow up to be, but it smells like tea right now, so I keep sniffing it. And it's just going to sit and look gorgeous for a little while before it speaks to me and says, hey, this is what I want to be. I did a lot of reading this week. Monday through Friday, I finished a book every day. The first 2 I was reading last week. I finished Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger on Monday. It was good. It was really good. So good that I have the second one already waiting for me to start reading. I also finished Cruel by Jennifer Albin on Tuesday. Still pretty good. I will probably put it on hold at the library soon or check and see if it's in. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I read 2 more books that I don't have here. And both of those books I started one day and finished them the next. The first one was White Cat by Holly Black, which is the first book in the Curse Workers series. I love Holly Black. She wrote the modern fairy tale books, which are Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside. Very good if you like fairy stories. Not fairy tales, but, stories of fairy. I would highly recommend those books. I would also highly recommend White Cat. It's very interesting. It's in an alternate present where people are called workers, and if they touch you with their hands, that's where their power is. It's in their hands. If they touch you with their hand, they can curse you, which is not always a bad thing. That's just what it's called. And there are 7 types of curse workers. Let's see if I can remember them all. Memory, emotional, physical, death, luck, transformation. Nope, that's what I have for you. So with one touch, a death worker can kill you. And with one touch, a physical worker can cause you extreme pain. memory workers can erase memories or change memories, and transformation workers change things from one thing to another. Workers are obviously very powerful, and so right now they're kind of feared. The government is trying to make it so that workers would have to be part of a registry, but it's not like a dystopian society. It really is an alternate present. And the main character is a guy. I'm not always in love with books where the main characters are guys, but this one was really good, and I read it in a day. It wasn't super long, but it wasn't ridiculously short either. The other book that I read is Click, which I pulled off of the shelf because it was called Click, and I was like, okay, that could be interesting. And then I saw on the front cover that it was a novel written by 10 authors. I was like, interesting concept. So the story is 10 chapters long, and each chapter is written by a different author, and each chapter focuses on a different character. The concept of the book is that one person impacts so many different people. It revolves around a photographer who has recently passed away, and the first chapter is his granddaughter, and she actually makes up 3 of the chapters. She's the only character that you visit more than once, but you visit throughout her life. And he is a photojournalist, I guess. So he has traveled all over the place, and throughout the book, you meet people that he has met. And it's really interesting. I think some of the chapters are more well written than some of the other ones. I like them better stylistically. The end of the book it went a little weird for me because you go into the future, and that's just not where I expected the book to go. It wasn't bad, but it was just, I don't know. It was interesting. For completely just an anthropological type of read, I enjoyed it for that. For a story read, it was okay. But it's also really short. It's only 10 chapters, and I don't think it broke 200 pages, which is why I was able to finish it in a day. And then on Friday, I started this. This is Behemoth by Scott Westerfeld. All the books were from the library, and I went to the library on Friday to drop off a movie that was due back. And so I dropped them all off. And came away with this, which is Behemoth. And it is the second book in the Leviathan series. Trilogy. It's a trilogy. I am a little more than halfway through it. Greatly enjoying it. Really, really like the main characters. You get to see a lot more fabricated creatures and find out more about them, because this is a steampunk novel with a twist, steampunk trilogy with a twist. So the Germans and Austrians and their allies, it's set during World War I, and Germans and Austrians and their allies all use steam-powered mechanicals, and the British use fabricated animals based off of the studies of Darwin. So the Leviathan is a huge airship that is a whale, like the body of a whale, and that's what you float in, and you actually, like, parts of the ship are actually inside the whale, so like you see the whale's ribs and stuff. Weird. But there's also other fabricated creatures. It's basically an entire ecosystem is what makes this airship work. And there are just fabricated creatures that solely work on their own and are not part of an ecosystem. The Behemoth is a new fabricated creature that is like a kraken, but better. I haven't come across the behemoth yet, but there has been mention of it. I'm very much enjoying it. I recommend it if you're interested in steampunk, if you're interested in World War I, because they are at war. These are war mechanicals in war. If you're interested in World War I, because they are at war. These are war mechanicals in war fabrications. It's pretty good. Looking forward to finishing it. And I have a huge stack of books just waiting for me from the library because I have a serious love affair with the library. My list this week is of podcasts. I finished 3 more. The first one I finished was Den Knits with Danae. If you watch Stashless, then you've heard of Danae and Den Knits. They are having a race-along, knit-along that ends in a couple days. Danae is a designer, and she also has an Etsy shop where she sells knitted goods. And she's very, very laid back. The second podcast I finished is The Artsy Knitter, which is hosted by True, who is in Toronto, I believe, in Canada for sure. She is an artist. She does photography, and she knits. Her daughter also co-hosts about half of the time. So far, it's only 5 episodes in, 5 or 6. Not very many. She also talks about fashion a lot. She is a huge fan of the late Alexander McQueen. So it's just really interesting to get another layer added on to crafting, bringing it from just crafting to art. She uses some of her knitting as photo props and stuff like that. Not that I think that knitting can't be art, because obviously it can be. And the last one that I finished just this morning actually is Sprightly Knitter with Helen in Scotland. I really enjoyed it. However, she is in Scotland and she has a very thick accent. So if you have trouble with accents, that might not be the podcast for you. I find it very enjoyable. She usually has a lot of stash to flash, which is fun. That is all I have for you this week. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye.